Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Animal Liberation Online Assembly. We're so excited to welcome you back this month, and we're going to get started in just a few minutes here as we wait for everyone to get all their tech set up and get out of the waiting room. We're just going to hear a quick song from our friend Jason Oliver. So this is Jason singing Isn't It Nice? Take it away, Jason.
It isn't nice to block the doorway. It isn't nice to go to jail. Isn't there are nicer ways to do it? But the nice ways always fail. It isn't nice. It isn't nice. You told us once, you told us twice. But if that's this freedom's price, we don't mind. It isn't nice to carry banners, or to sit in on the floor, or to shout the cries of freedom at the hotel and the store. It isn't nice, it isn't nice. You told us once, you told us twice, but if that's his freedom's price, we don't mind. How about we've tried negotiations and the long demo line? The corporations just ignored us. They don't have love for our kind. Our new ways, they don't seem nice when we deal with men of vice. But if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. How about those years of slaughter and the shots in Jacob's back? Do you say it isn't proper? Do you stand upon the track? You were quiet just like mice. Now you say that we are nice. But if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. It isn't nice to block the doorway. It isn't nice to go to jail. There are nicer ways to do it, but the nice ways always fail. It isn't nice, it isn't nice. You told us once, you told us twice. 'Cause if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. It isn't nice to block the doorway. It isn't nice to go to jail. There are nicer ways to do it, but the nice ways always fail. It isn't nice, it isn't nice. But thanks for your advice. 'Cause if that is freedom's price, we don't mind. We don't mind. No, we don't mind.
Thank you so much, Jason. I wish my individual applause could do what your song deserves justice, but I saw some people in the chat asking where they can listen to that or find your music, so maybe you can just throw your links in there so that people can find you. And for those of you who joined us during the song, that was Jason Oliver performing Isn't It Nice? And this is the Animal Liberation Online Assembly, so welcome. Alrighty. So we are a global community united from animal liberation. And as we've already seen, some people writing in the chat, letting us know where they're from. We have people joining us from all over the world today. And we just love, taking this time out of our weekend to just get together with our friends from around the world. And so on the second Saturday of each month, we come together from all over the world to learn and be together and be inspired and to take action for animals. So before we pass over to our featured guest for today, this is just an invitation to rename yourself. And you can include your name if you want to include your pronouns and your city in your name as well. It just helps us feel a little more sense of community to know where everyone is calling from. We also have ASL interpretation on today's call. Our interpreter is Noemi, and we're so happy to have her here. We're doing it a little bit differently this time. So if you normally watch our ASL interpretation, or if you need ASL interpretation, we're gonna ask you to watch our Facebook live stream. And that's just gonna be a better experience. So you'll be able to see everything that's going on and understand everything. So this is also just an invitation to turn your video on, find the chat and use that to engage with people throughout the call. And you can also post any questions in there for our presenter at that time. And the video and the chat, all these different things give us just a way to feel a little bit more togetherness, even though we're really far apart. So even though we're not sharing walls today, you know, we are in this room, the Zoom room, and just remember that it's a global community. We also want to uphold the same standards of conduct online as when we gather in physical space. So just remember that anyone violating our code of conduct will be removed from the call. And yeah, just have fun, be present, and I hope you all enjoy our presenter today. I'm just going to share a different screen here. We are joined by an incredible guest today, and I'm so excited for everyone to hear his story. And just to give you a little idea of who this is and what we can expect, I'm just going to play a short video of Mike Africa Jr. speaking at a protest in Philadelphia earlier this year.
We're on the move! We on the move! I'm going to take this off into a different direction. Instead of talking to the people, I'm going to talk to these people. When you say the police think, when you say the people, they don't think you're talking about them.
That's right. Okay.
When you say the people, the National Guard don't think you're talking about them.
That's right.
When you say the people, they don't think you're talking about them when it's talking about the Navy. But the fact of the matter is this. The system is against us all. It is against the police, whether they want to see it or not, whether they protect it or not. The system is against the National Guardsmen and women. Whether they see it that way or not, it's the truth.
Let's go.
The system is kneeling on the necks of us all.
That's right.
Look at the way the military went to Vietnam and fought to protect this country. And when the Vietnamese, and when that fight happened, and when the 250,000 Americans were killed, some of them were killed by America with Agent Orange. Some of them lost their limbs and sat on corners for years begging for money because America would not provide them with health care. This system does not care about the military. The brothers and sisters that went to Iraq and fought and died, and the ones that came back with PTSD, that did not get the care that they needed. It is a fact. It is a fact that the military from the Iraqi war, more people committed suicide from that war than were actually killed in the war from America. And the United States would not provide them with the health care that they needed so that they could be okay.
Because they don't need them anymore.
There are police that are on the front line that are taking the heat for this system, but they do not care about you. When Donald Trump spews the racism from his... Right? Look here. When Donald
All right, so I'm going to welcome one of the organizers of Direct Action Everywhere, Priya Sahani, and she is going to be introducing our guest for today.
All right. Thanks, Joanna. Thanks so much. I'm so excited. And I just wanted to thank everyone for being here today, because I think this is an incredibly important presentation for the animal rights movement, for us to learn about the animal rights movement history, because that's what I really think this is. And my name is Priya Sahani, and I am really honored to introduce Mike Africa Jr. And Mike is a revolutionary. When I think about Mike, I think about the phrase "never give up." And we're going to learn about the story that Mike's going to be sharing with us today. But it took Mike 40 years for him to get his parents out, Mike and Debbie Africa, out of prison for the work that they did. The work that they did is incredibly, crucial. As MOVE members, they were fighting societal ills, and their mission is to protect life, to protect people, to protect animals, and to protect the environment. And the story that Mike's going to be sharing is incredibly important for not only the animal rights history, but for anyone who cares about fighting for liberation. And it's also incredibly heartbreaking. So I really hope that we can all listen, but more importantly, learn from the incredible work that they are still doing. And as we all know, we live in a system which Mike was talking about in that speech earlier. We're still fighting the system that is perpetuating so much violence, from police brutality to mass incarceration, and also the oppression of animals as well. But I don't want to keep talking. I want all of us to listen to Mike and the story that he's going to be sharing. So thank you again, and I hope that we can continue this conversation in the weeks and months to come.
On the move. Can you guys hear me? Because I
We
don't
can
know
hear
what's
you
going
now.
on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Did you guys hear anything that I said, or do I have to start from the beginning?
I think you got to start from the beginning.
Okay. Africa Jr. I'm a member of the MOVE organization. Okay. Joanna, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I just can't see your video, Mike. Like it's a little, it's frozen. So if you just want to tell me when you want
That's the sound of a high. Okay. The sound of a hydraulic cherry picker smashing with men, women, children, and animals. Next slide. Of ammunition fired at a house filled with men, women, children, and animals. Next.
This is a picture of the police that surrounded our house. And as you can see, children dangling from the arms of women, targeted and shot at by police. Next. Deluge hoses, high pressure water cannons blasting through the side of our house. People sometimes underestimate the power of a deluge hose. Firefighters are trained to never use those hoses on buildings that they know people are inside of, because the power of those hoses are powerful enough to shoot. They're so powerful buildings and create collapse. And even though firefighters are trained to never use them on buildings that they know people are inside of, this house was used, or this hose was used on a house filled with men, women, children, and animals. Next. Next. The people that were inside of the house, my mother, who was 8 months pregnant with me at the time and holding her not even 2-year-old baby. My father. Next. Members of the MOVE organization. Next. Next. Those hundreds of rounds of ammunition were the Philadelphia Police Department. Next, the Philadelphia Fire Department. Next, and the Philadelphia Streets Department. Why were they shooting at our house and attacking us the way they were? The answer is simple. Martin Luther King. Next. Malcolm X. Next. Che Guevara. Next. Fred Hampton. Next. And Jesus Christ. And for those of us that recognize Jesus in a more accurate view, Jesus Christ. Next. But why were they shooting? Why were they shooting at us the way they were? The reason the police were attacking us the way they were is because of the same reason that they attacked other members in the activism and revolutionary community. Different people had different ways of protest. Martin Luther King's way was marching and nonviolence and protesting in that way. Next. Malcolm X was more the by any means necessary. Next. Che Guevara had a thing where his thing was to eliminate, to kill anyone that opposed the Cuban Revolution. Next. Fred Hampton, as a member of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was a militant organization that was so committed to their belief in protecting each other in self-defense, they went to court armed. And as a result of all these revolutionaries protesting, they were all treated the same way. Next. They were all assassinated. Next. They were all murdered. Next. They were all crucified. Next. 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 I hope this is all right for everybody. I'm trying to, this is normally a live show, but this new way of technology is not totally comfortable for me yet, but I'm trying to tell this story and a way for people to understand so that you can see the progression and the effect of revolutionary action. Why were we attacked? Why was the MOVE organization attacked the way we were? The MOVE organization was founded in the early 70s by John Africa. Next, John Africa founded the organization with the mission to protect life and to encourage other people to protect life too. And when we say life, we're talking about people, animals, and the environment. The members of the organization would protest against the police for their violence against the citizens in the community. We protested against the judges for giving MOVE and other members of the community extreme prison time for their activism. We protested against the politicians for lying to the people. Members of the organization protested against the mistreatment of animals and how these animals were used and abused, next, by the system, the way they used dogs to attack people, and the way they chained up animals they would take an elephant from the freedom of Africa, chain them up and put them in a shipping crate and send them to the Philadelphia Zoo, where they were forced to be on display for the rest of their natural lives. Next, members of the organization confronted the system for how they chained up monkeys. They would take these animals from the jungles of South America and they would put chains around their necks and strap them to poles and leave them there to starve and grow old in suffrage. Next, members of the organization protested against the Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers Zoo, the circus, and talked about how these tigers were taken from the freedom of India, off of the endless acres of India, and forced into a shipping crate and forced and electrically prodded and starved and beaten and stabbed with steel spike rods. And they were trained and starved and beaten and made to jump through rings of fire. Do you know how hard it is to catch a tiger? What must be done to teach them and train them and intimidate them into jumping through rings of fire was more than MOVE was willing to accept and stand for. So when members of the organization protested against the Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers Circus, John Africa had MOVE members make signs that said, Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers sadism. Next, and we protested and we demonstrated and we forced other people to get involved and see what was happening to these animals. And we eventually forced Barnum and Bailey and Ringling Brothers out of Philadelphia. For years, they would not come to Philadelphia. And even when they did, they were met with a response from members of the community that made them very uncomfortable. Members of the organization Africa are very environmentally conscious, and we exposed the pollution, and we exposed the industries that forced so much pollution into the river that children were unable to drink from the river. And we talked about it, that the rivers that used to be clear are now filled with poison because of industry. And this is why the members of the MOVE organization were attacked. Next. The attacks on the members of the organization led to Rhonda Africa was beaten at 8 months pregnant. She was beaten she was beaten to the point where her baby was born with black and blue bruises all over his body. Next. The beating of MOVE led to MOVE taking the defensive stand. Members of the organization next got up on our platform armed with weapons and made a statement that we would no longer accept the beating of our family. And if the police came and attacked us, if they came with sticks, we would fight back with sticks. If they came with fists, we would fight them with fists. If they came shooting, we would shoot back in defense of our lives. Next. That standoff lasted for almost a year. Next. And it finalized on August 1978 when hundreds of Philadelphia police came out to our house and they shot those hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Africa, who you can Phil Africa, Eddie Africa, next, who you can see coming out of the house, unarmed with babies in their body, clinging to their bodies. The corners that they heard babies crying in. Next. Members of the organization were fleeing the building next when the police decided that they were going to catch Delbert Africa before he could escape next, and they were going to beat him and drag him by his hair and stomp on his head and kick him in the groin next. They beat Delbert so bad, they lifted him up off the ground with their kicks next. Next. Play. Next. After he had a shotgun bullet in his chest, he was hit in the head with a steel helmet, had a broken jaw from a rifle butt from the police, and he was left for dead. Next. Our house, next, was bulldozed, and we were left with a vacant lot. Next. 9 members of the organization, including my mother, my father, and my Uncle Chuck, and other members of the organization were taken to jail and given 100 years each, while my mother was pregnant with me. Next. When my mother was pregnant with me in jail, next, she gave birth to me in a prison cell. That's the jail cell that I was born in. And the cot that you see is made of metal. When John Africa talked to members of the organization about the system, he also spoke about what we do believe in. And he talked about life and how natural law is the true answer, is the only answer to the health and fitness that we need. And without nature, there is no health. And understanding that health is important and health is natural, members of the organization begin to cling to natural way of living. So we ate raw foods and vegetables. And my mother was very healthy enough to have me in a jail cell without the help or need for any guards to help her with hospital medical attention. She gave birth to me using only the muscles in her body that was made strong by her activity, thanks to the teaching of John Africa and supply from nature. Next. When I was born in that jail cell, no one could believe it. They were shocked. Merle Africa was one of the members in the jail with my mom, and she would sing to keep the noise down so that the guards did not hear my crying. And she made sure that I was safe and protected. Next. The papers. Next. Next. That was the song she sang. When it was announced in court that I was born, and the guards didn't believe it, especially because they were on duty and they had no. Next. We get too far. I just want to say, and all of that, yeah, my mom is strong. And I think part of my little pet peeve with all of this is that about her hearing all of these things about my mom being strong, and I see the messages coming through of a lot of people. Yeah, your mother's strong. Yeah, she definitely is. But you know, when I was talking to her about this, and I said, Mom, you get a lot of attention. I said, I think it's kind of messed up that they don't give me no credit. They don't give me no credit for being born. I knew when to come out. I knew when was the right time in the dark. I knew not to make any noise and all of that, but I don't get no credit for that day. But they just give it all to my mom. I think that's kind of messed up. That's cool though. Anyway, next. Members of the community, thank you. Is that my I couldn't see the name. Somebody said strong baby. That's right. Give me, there we go. That's right. My dude. That's right. If you look at this picture, you can see members of the organization were outraged by the illegal sentence and the fact that my mother had to give birth to her son in jail. And if you look at the picture, you can see the two women in front, right on the opposite sides of the police officer. Those two women are my grandmother and my aunt, Laverne and Louise. And they were the two women that picked me up from the jail when I was born. And if you look at the top left of the picture, you'll see a picture of Mumia Abu Jamal. Mumia is a journalist who has been speaking out and telling the truth about what's been happening to the MOVE organization since the beginning. He himself was targeted by Frank Rizzo and was put in prison, and he has been in prison since 1981, shortly after MOVE was arrested, or shortly after MOVE was sentenced to 100 years in prison. Next. When the MOVE organization protested, we talked to everybody that wanted to talk. We talked to a whole lot of people that didn't want to hear what we had to say. We talked to politicians, street organizers. We talked to radio stations, anybody that wanted to listen about what was happening to our family and that the fact that they were in prison with a 100-year sentence. And as a result, the response to that next was for the police, instead of sending next instead of answering our call, instead of it doing an investigation into our people being in prison, Mayor Wilson Goodis next.
This device that was used, you're calling it a device.
I think at about 4:45 or 5 o'clock, I had reached the conclusion that we would probably have to wait overnight That was at the point in time that Leo Brooks called me up.
Would you tell us what you heard the managing director tell the mayor?
To the best of my recollection, sir, and he told the mayor that we were recommending and that I had recommended that the best way to go was to use an explosive entry device to blow a hole in the roof so that we could insert gas in through the roof, and also to use this device to hopefully dislodge the bunker because it presented a danger to everyone, and that we intended to use a police helicopter, a state police helicopter.
And what did you think was the fate of the children in terms of blowing a hole in the roof?
My understanding was that it would work and it would therefore be safe for the children. I think that
Are you still with us, Mike? Oh, you just got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was trying to, it wouldn't let me.
All right.
Okay. Next. 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 Birdie Africa and Ramona Africa were the only two survivors. 11 members of the organization were shot and or burned to death. Next. Ramona Africa was the only member of the organization and the only member of the people that were there on May 13th, 1985. Ramona Africa was the only one to be arrested and put in jail. She served 7 years for riot and arson. Next. When Ramona Africa, next, came home from jail, she and Pam Africa took me under their wing to teach me about what was happening to our family and what to do to make a change so that this doesn't happen to others. Next. On March 13th, 1998, next, the woman that was singing to keep down the noise and sounds that I was making when I was born in that jail died in prison after 20 years. Next. On January 10th, 2015, Phil Africa, who was protecting us in the basement when our house was flooded and attacked by the police, after 37 years in prison, died in prison. Phil told me a story once. He said on August 8th, when the police came in the house, one of the things he did was he put his arms, he grabbed a piece of plywood and put his back to the plywood and put his arms up, holding the plywood with his back. And he said he could see bullets going through the plywood and tracing his body like a Looney Tunes skit. After all of these years, my parents and my Uncle Chuck forced me through phone calls to make sure that I did whatever I had to do to get my people out of prison. Next. So I began to work harder, and I used the strategy of John Africa. I have a tape where John Africa talked about how to beat the system. He said the system is controlled by pressure, and we're going to keep the pressure on you, on the streets, in the courts, and in the prisons. So I used some of that information, and I started applying that information to, and as we pushed for release for the prisoners, after 40 years, next. From Chicago, out of the People's Law Office, who helped us work on parole packages. And while the prisoners did their portion of pressure to the prison itself, we hired this lawyer to apply pressure through the courts. And we, myself and Pam Africa and Ramona Africa, we applied pressure on the streets to the politicians and to the community out here. And after 40 years of resisting, 40 years of fighting, 40 years of separation, next, we finally got my mom out of prison. Next. And after 4 months, after my mom came home, my dad came home too. Next. My mom and dad had not seen each other or been around each other for 40 years. And when they were finally reunited, this hug is what you see, is what happened. Next. And when I talked to my dad, while my dad was in jail, he talked to me about all the things he wanted to do when he got home. Of all the things he told me he wanted to do, when he finally got home, I said, Dad, you can do whatever you want. You're finally home. What is it that you want to do more than anything? I said, I don't have a lot of money, but whatever you say you want, I'll make it happen. You tell me what it is. He said, Mike, all I want is to marry your mom. He said, I want to marry your mom like I should have done 40 years ago. So we hooked it up for them to have a wedding, and they got married. Next. Next. Look at that handsome couple. And me too. Next. After all of the years of fighting for our people to come home, that one family member left that's still in prison today, since 1981, going on 39 years, is the journalist who would not stop supporting us, Mumia Abu-Jamal. He's still in prison, and he needs a lot of support to get out of prison. Accused of killing a cop, did not do it, but he's still in prison today. Next. Play. So, this presentation is called Born on the Move, but it really should be called Never Give Up, because we have fought so hard and for so long to get our people out of prison. And just the fact that they've been in prison for so long, and the fact that they came home on their own 2 feet and not feet first, like Merlin Still. The fact that we're still here after a bombing is indication of the strength, but that strength comes from never giving up. We don't believe that we can be defeated because we believe that as long as we believe in life, we'll survive and we'll overcome. Muhammad Ali said, it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get up. Martin Luther King said, fly. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. And so we have used that type of information to continue to move forward, and we never give up. And because we never give up, we will win. On the move. Next. Thank you all for listening to me and checking out the presentation. I wish that we were in a live setting where there's crowd participation and people can see me and we can feel each other's energy, because this is not an ordinary story, and there's to it that I'm really not able to really share. And the expression that people feel when they hear this cannot really be fully grasped, because because of the coronavirus right now, but some of those and clear some things up if necessary. You know, and I think people should just allow themselves to be inspired by the phrase that we live by, never give up. You know, so yeah, I'm open to questions. Is someone going to quiz me, or not quiz, but you know what I mean?
Sorry about that. I was just getting muted. I just wanted to, you know, do a round of applause. I know we can't do it as authentically over Zoom, but we can do it with the folks we have here. I wanted to say thank you so much. I was in tears, and I'm sure other people, you know, felt that energy. That I just feel incredibly inspired, because what you know, the stories that you shared are stories of the courageous people who are fighting for liberation. And yeah, I'm going to take some questions. I have one question, and if you all have any questions for Mike, please post them in the chat, and Joanna's going to help me. You know, she'll just let me know which questions to ask. We'll do that for a few minutes, and then yeah, we'll post. I'm seeing some questions about posting the videos that we saw. And yeah, so I'll just ask the first question, which is for Mike. Let's see, what is the best way to help you fight? How can we help your movement and family?
Yeah, so, you know, from where we are right now, you know, we have many different types of campaigns going on right now to do this, right? Particularly what I'm working on right now is I'm trying to help Mumia Abu-Jamal as much as possible. We're trying, in Philadelphia, we're doing this thing where we're trying to get a street named after Mumia. He's from 7th and Wallace. And Wallace, I don't know who Wallace was, but I know who Mumia is. And, you know, their area is a Black neighborhood full of Black people. And it's named after some Wallace person who I think might be George Wallace from the governor of Alabama. That definitely doesn't resonate with the people down there. But the point of getting the street name for Mumia is that he needs as much pressure as possible put on the officials to release him, because he's been in prison for almost 40 years. He is, you know, his oldest child was in grade school. Now his oldest child is a grandparent, you know, and so whether he is guilty or not guilty, is not even the point at this point. The fact is he's been in prison for all of these years and he is not a danger to anyone, even if he was a threat. You know, police kill people all the time and they don't go to prison. Murder is not an issue with the system, you know. So, you know, we want people to support him. People can go to my website. I have a website, and that's where a lot of my work is done from. And you can leave a donation there. That's like probably the best way, especially in this situation, because we're traveling around the city of Philadelphia to get this done. And we're going to do a statewide campaign to free Mumia. Every county in the state of Pennsylvania, we want a politician, a legislator, some type of official to support Mumia. And it's going to take travel expenses and time and copies and all these different resources that we're going to need. So I'm trying to raise funds for that. That's the major campaign that I'm working on right now. Another campaign is there's one up on my Facebook page. My Facebook is Mike Africa Jr. At Facebook, and there's a campaign for my parents to tell their story. My parents and their love has remained strong throughout all of these ups and downs, and the 40 years of them being separated. My parents are still together today, and the bond that is between them is so powerful, it's so strong, that all those years of separation, all of the attacks, you know, raising their children from prison, none of that has stopped them, and none of that has changed the love. In fact, if it has changed, it has been increased. You know, so they want to tell their own story. They don't want Hollywood to get a hold to it and mess it up like they've done to other people's stories. They want to tell their own story. So there's a fundraiser on my on my Facebook page, Mike Africa Jr. at Facebook, so that people can support that. Telling our stories is so important. Who are not our friends necessarily, generally has not been kind to us or our people. We want to tell our own stories. Those are the two ways that I'm asking people to contribute. These are hefty missions that we're on. Trying to tell our own story is a big one. But you know, either way, going to Mike Africa Jr., you can go to my Facebook, go to my website, and there's a donate button on the website. That's the biggest way.
Thanks so much, Mike. And yeah, I just wanted to say, I did put the link in, and thanks, Joanna, for the fundraiser in the chat. And I just wanted to encourage everyone to donate. I don't know if you saw that really powerful photo of Mike's parents, Mike and Debbie Africa, reuniting after 40 years, but you know, it's hard not to cry when you see that. And if you want to contribute, and anything helps, to help, you know, Mike's parents who have a dream of sharing their story, you can go to dxe.io/move, which is just a short link to make it easier for you to get there. And yeah, I know I really want to, I'm going to be contributing because I want to help, you know, Mike's parents, Mike and Debbie, share their story, because it's incredibly powerful. And as we know, the media currently represses these stories. And I know Kitty was mentioning how it's so hard to find, you know, more about this story, especially the bombing. We don't hear too much about it, and there's reasons for that. So let's do what we can to support. And I know that I'm going to be volunteering to help with writing letters or doing whatever we can to help you, Mike, with the freedom, fighting for the freedom of Mumia. So thanks for sharing that too. And then we have another question, which is, what keeps you going during times of crisis?
What keeps me going during times of crisis? Honestly, the honest answer is nature. No matter how crazy things get, and no matter how hard things are, nature keeps on moving. And as a member of the species of life, I got to keep on going. You know, no matter how many times you knock a bird's nest out of a tree, that bird is going to continue to build a nest, find another way, find another spot, but the continuation is going to happen. No matter how polluted the environment is, the sun still shines. And, you know, animals, you look at animals and the way animals behave. A coyote will chew its own leg off if caught in a trap so that it can escape that trap, so that it can continue to move. That's why we're called move, because we have to move. When you're moving, you're free, but when you're in bondage, when you're not moving, you're in bondage. And you know, the activity, the movement, you know, the fact that life is suffering. Like my worst day, you say Mike Africa Jr. had a horrible day. His family had a bomb dropped on him. 11 of his family members were killed. 5 of them were children that he grew up with, right? That's horrible. But you know that happens to animals every day. Animals get bombed out of their homes every day, all day. There are companies that get paid to do that to animals, right? Raid and insects go through that for all life. You know, but to say that we don't have, you know, this whole thing about just like the animals are seen as not important, Black people are seen as not important. Different races of white people are seen as less important. You know, the system does not care about any of us. Every one of us is a target and under the gun of the system. So if I give up, I think it would be disrespectful to life itself to give up, knowing that there is life suffering. We must continue to work. We must continue to move.
Wow, thank you so much, Mike, from the metaphors to just how you talk about moving. And it's just, I was just imagining all that and feeling it too. And yeah, I think I want to go back just to write down what you said, because I think those are really important words to live by. And I wanted to ask this question, which is, how do you think we can change the system without the revolutionaries going to jail for 40 years of their life?
Some of that is inevitable, because it doesn't matter if you're innocent or guilty in the eyes of the system. Their mission is to stop people from opposing them. And if they're not going to put you in jail, or if they're not going to kill you, like, what are they going to do? Just allow you to go up against their systems and destroy it? They're not going to do that. So going to jail and being killed by police and all of that, some of that is inevitable. You can't avoid it. The important thing is to get the message out so that people understand the danger in it, and allow that information to nest and nurture the people so that we can make a change. You know, it's kind of like, you know, riding a bike. You know, you get on a bike, you're probably going to fall once or twice before you really get the hang of it. Even when you got the hang of it, you're probably going to fall sometimes. And that's how it is with the system. When you go against the system, you confront people. You know, you can stop this, man. What you gonna do about it? You ain't say nothing wrong, but he's still gonna have you arrested, right? It's the same for us when we were protesting against the zoo. We got the freedom of speech. We ain't do nothing wrong. We got the freedom to assemble, all of that. But the system don't want you there. The zoo makes a lot of money for the city of Philadelphia, and they're an establishment that the city will tell the zoo that you're wrong. You should take those animals back to their natural habitat. They're going to go and erase those nappy-headed niggas, you know, and that's the way it is. So, you know, but the threat of prison or death is not something that should stop people from speaking the truth. Because just understand this, you're not in danger if you if you fight the system. You're in danger if you don't fight the system. The system is against us all. And it doesn't matter your color, your creed, your race, your level of employment, none of that matters. Look at what's happening now with the pandemic. How many people are safe from that? How many people can say I'm safe? The only thing that makes people safe from the pandemic is what you got naturally from nature. Health. That's it. You can only fight that with health, and health is natural. You ain't gonna get health from the scientific laboratory. Health comes from nature. And unless you engage in healthy things, healthy eating and healthy living, healthy exercises and all of that, you know, you're just furthering the danger, the level. They come up with vaccination. They come up with vaccinations for the flu every year. People still get the flu. You can't, you know, the only thing that's safe is to be healthy. And to fight the system is the best way to be safe.
Fight the system is the best way to be safe. Thank you, Mike. And
yeah,
I mean, you're absolutely right. And I just wanted to add that I'll post a link to the article that Mike wrote in Salon. But I think, you know, one of the things that really stood out to me when you said the same system that enslaved African people is the very same system that enslaves animals in zoos and circuses. And that's a system that you were just talking about today. And I think that, you know, what you said earlier, answering this question is so important. So all of us could just do the work to, along with, you know, we're out here protesting at slaughterhouses, at factory farms, circuses, and really we should be out here in these prisons too, because that's really how we're going to keep ourselves, you know, protesters, revolutionaries, from being out of prison, is to have just not have those institutions of oppression. And I just wanted to point that out, that how you you know, put that in the Salon article. Like, it's an incredibly moving piece. Like, I was in tears reading it. It covers even more in depth, like some of the things that Mike shared today. And I'll post that in the chat. And then I have one last question for you before we wrap up. And that is, what are your perceptions of the current animal rights movement? And what do you think we could do differently?
Fight. If you are fighting, keep fighting. That's it. I don't think there is nothing like, you know, you can step up your camp. People that can step up the campaign, that if you have the ability to, do it. If you know, if you're doing that already, you don't have to change. You know, these you know, the problem with the system is the industry. It's not so much the killing of an animal. Animals die every day. They get killed by other animals. You know, death and being killed and all of that, that happens. It's a part of life. People, animals, you know, insects, the planet itself, like the trees die, they fall, you know, nothing lives like how they say live forever. The cycle of life continues the trees and continues the animals and the insects and us. But the problem is the industry. When they take these cows and they strap them to these cold pieces of steel, and they leave them there, and they hook up these machines to pump the milk out of them, and they leave them there to suffer. The pain that they go through, the hurt, that's the problem. You know, people have animals and they eat animals, and animals get slaughtered by just people just being hungry, or animals being hungry. That's not the problem. The problem is that there's an industry that pollutes everything when it's in motion. I mean, the same industry that does these to these cows, that industry pollutes the water. It pollutes the air. It pollutes the soil. You know, it poisons the people that are around it. And because it's in such a mass and large scale, the type of energy that it absorbs and the resources that it extracts from communities and the danger that it does, that's the problem. You know, if you see if an animal is taken down and eaten by another animal, that's, you know, that's the cycle of life. But when you talk about building a factory that's going to belch sickness with its nuclear power, and it's going to poison rivers, and the people in that area, in that community, gets cancer, and 3 generations later they have poisoned lungs, and they're deformed and malnourished, and that's the problem. Creating these industries that destroy and pollute, and all for the sake of money, because it's unnecessary. You don't have to have these Smithfield farms that's enslaving these animals like that for people to eat. Having those types of industries that like the nuclear power plants and all of that stuff is not necessary to give people power for their homes. But those are the problems, because these industries want to enslave people by making people hopelessly dependent on them, so that they can continue to extract as much resources out of the community and crippling the people at the same time. And so people have to recognize, they have to understand that this is the problem, and we have to do something about it. And if we don't do anything about it, spiral in this vicious cycle that we're living in right now, where a man can be shot down in the street by the police, and the police not even get arrested for it. And when people begin to riot and break windows, we be the ones getting called violent, and we should protest peacefully. It's crazy. People have to step up their campaign and do as much as they can. And when they feel like they've done enough, do some more.
Thank you so much, Mike. I mean, I've taken so much, and I'm sure so many other people have, from the things that you just said. And one of the things is just that moving towards moving and fighting, keep on doing that, because these industries are basically, they're stopping us from moving, whether it's people who are fighting the system, and of course those who are victims of the system.
Yeah. And I don't know how much time we have left, but are we taking more questions?
I think we're done with questions, but if there's any last words you want to say, Mike, you can go ahead.
Yeah, people can follow me I'm on Instagram, and at Mike Africa Jr. You have my website, mikeafricajr.com. If anyone have any other questions, you can reach out to me directly. Shoot it on my Instagram. Like I said, Mike Africa Jr. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I try to be accessible so that, we can dialogue and so that we can build. I don't have the answer to everything, but I know one thing. I know the system needs to go. So, anybody that's willing to work with me and build on that, I'm here, on the move.
Just before I give it back to you, Joanna, I just wanted to say I'll post all of the links in the chat, but I just wanted to make one last announcement, and we'll be posting the link again for the fundraiser. But if you can contribute to help Mike and Debbie Africa share their story, because their story is a story, about liberation and about fighting the system, which is what Mike has been talking about. And as far as I see it, we're in solidarity. We're working together because we're all fighting this system of oppression that's not friends to any of us, and create a better world where everyone can move towards justice and liberation. And also follow the MOVE organization on Instagram as well. And I just wanted to say I messaged the MOVE organization Instagram page, and Mike responded within an hour. So he truly means it when he says that he's always trying to be available to those who are trying to fight the system.
Yes. Appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate Priya and Joanna for taking the time to work with me on this and getting this done. And so I just want to say thank you all. And I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention on HBO on December 3rd, there is going to be a a movie documentary that's been done about my quest to free my parents and all of the actions that I took and what I had to do in the prison. There's a movie coming out. Look out for that. If you go on my website, you can see, and I'll be updating you people as to how, as to what that, when that's going to happen and how it's going to be. Go to my website, and I'll be updating. And if you want to be on the email list for, you know, I can email you all the updates and upcoming events that I'm working on. If you want to get site and leave a comment saying that you want to be on the email list.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here and for sharing your story. I think this is, I'm just so shocked that this is something I never, you know, had really learned about before. And it's just such a powerful story. And seeing that photo of your parents reunited after 40 years just really brought tears to my eyes. And I think, you know, with everything that's going on in the world right now and hearing about stories like this and knowing that, you know, this isn't the only one and this isn't going to be the end and we have so much more of a fight in front of us, I think it's important for us to also just remember to take time to kind of grieve and mourn and feel all those things that we're feeling. So for everyone who joined us today, you know, just make sure you take some time to kind of just let all of this settle in, because it's, you know, it's a lot and it's really, it can be overwhelming. So yeah, thank you so much, Mike. And thank you, Priya, as well.
Yeah.
And like Priya said, if you want to donate, the link one more time is dxe.io/move. So we're going to shift gears a little bit here and we're going to do our social media challenge for this month. So up next, we have Paul Darwin Picklesheimer, who is also an organizer with Direct Action Everywhere. And he's going to be leading us through this month's social media challenge. He is leading an international group of organizers in a campaign at the end of this month, which is Rose's Law. And so today we're going to be supporting that campaign, and I'll pass it over to you, Paul.
Hey, thanks so much, Joanna and Priya and Mike. It's been such an amazing Aloha so far. Such an honor to have Mike speak and talk about this. At Direct Action Everywhere, I think that we really value movement as well. We are a group that is always doing and moving forward and hopefully strategizing, learning from our experiences and trying to come back stronger. And so everything we just heard really resonated with me, and I'm sure there was so many. And we're really excited to have this opportunity at the end of this month and the beginning of October to see people taking action around the world for Rose's Law, Animal Bill of Rights. And I'm just going to talk briefly a little bit about the background of Rose's Law before we jump into the challenge. And I'll share my screen also. Okay, and yeah, so just a quick heads up. There's a document that we can use to kind of accompany the social media challenge. And you can find that at dxe.io/Rose's Law Challenge. And that's on the screen there. And maybe somebody can type it into the chat if that helps too. And just a heads up, you might want to try to locate a black marker for sure. And then hopefully too, maybe a red marker or some red lipstick. And you also might want to have access to a mirror for this. But really quickly, you know, we found in our movement for animal rights that we would hear a lot of people making different asks at different times. And sometimes you'd see people saying stuff like, go vegan. And that doesn't really line up with like the Direct Action Everywhere philosophy of change that focuses on systemic change, not our personal change. So we don't, you know, want to say that at our protests. And then we would say things like animal liberation now, and which is like I think a beautiful thing to a lot of people in our minds. We have ideas of what that means, but the public on the whole, and even ourselves, we probably don't understand always or agree what that might be. So with Rose's Law, we attempted to do two things. One, to really spell out what we want, to really have an ask that's like specifically what we really want. And it might take us decades to get it, but this is what we're fighting for everybody. Humans, non-humans, insects, like Mike mentioned earlier. That was really, really nice to hear. And it's just a set of 5 principles that we want everybody to have access to. And one would be the right to rescue from distress and exploitation. Another is the right to be protected, to a protected home or habitat or ecosystem. the right to have their interest represented in court and protected by law, the right to not be exploited, abused, or killed by humans, the right to be free or to have a guardian, not owned. So those 5 basic principles, we feel like everybody should have that. And so that's what we fight for when we fight for Rose's Law and the Bill of Rights. And then the second thing that we launched Rose's Law with was an intention to increase the amount of civil disobedience in our movement. We think that there's always going to be times where you want to talk with adversaries and try to work towards a solution that both parties can agree upon. But sometimes we don't have a position of power to really speak from. And so we need to turn to different tactics. And civil disobedience is a tactic that's been used throughout history and been really effective. And it's really good to start getting used to employing it in different ways. And so just a quick video to show an example of how we did that last year with a few highlights from around the world. And I'll play this now. This is from San Diego's local news.
Thanks, Steve. There have been similar protests around the world over the past week. In South Korea, animal protest activists who locked down a slaughterhouse to demand an animal bill of rights. In Mexico City, protesters chained themselves together, blocking a busy intersection to show their support. In Paris, French citizens chained themselves in front of Parliament, asking legislatures to protect animals from factory farms. In Toronto, activists took over a place called Nathan Phillips Square to bring attention to the treatment of pigs that are raised for foods. And in San Francisco, activists appeared at a Board of Supervisors meeting asking for the support of a resolution in support of the right to rescue. Coming up in our second half hour, the agenda behind the group responsible for today's protest.
So that's just an example of some great press coverage that we got through the campaign last year. And what we really like about this is that we hear the media saying the words animal bill of rights. I think when we look at the climate crisis that we face, we're really frustrated because governments are not taking appropriate action. But at least the public is aware that there's a climate crisis and that we need drastic change to fix it. And so we'd like to get Rose's Law Animal Bill of Rights in the next 5 years to the point where maybe we won't have the Rose's Law Animal Bill of Rights, but people will know that there's a such thing as an Animal Bill of Rights, and they'll have a position on it, whether they're for it, against it, maybe they're undecided, but we want to get that phrasing and that terminology and that idea that everybody deserves the same basic rights, regardless of species or anything else, out into the atmosphere and into people's minds. So today you can help us with that by promoting Rose's Law Animal Bill of Rights on your social media accounts. And I'm going to scroll down through this document, and hopefully some people are checking it out too, because you'll be able to copy and paste some sample postings if you like. Like I said before, a black marker, a red marker, or lipstick, and a mirror. Hopefully you can grab those. And then we'll use like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll decide whether we want to do this challenge that's on our face or on our hands. And just a quick fair warning, this one with the face is a very semi sort of graphic image that we create ourselves. And so I just don't want to scare anybody. So I'm going to show a photo of Cassie now with makeup to make it look like she has been subjected to what billions of animals are every year, which is being bolted in the head to stun them so that their throats can be cut to kill them at slaughterhouses. That's a very common way for cows and pigs to be killed in the US and around the world. So what Cassie did was put a black dot in the middle of her forehead and surrounded it by red lipstick, and then a black line on her throat, and then surrounded that with red lipstick too, to just depict what animals are subjected to, the bolt and the slit. And so this is a photo of Cassie that she would post for this challenge. And I did the same thing, although I have a beard, so you can't see that I actually did have my neck done there. So if you have a beard, be mindful of that. And I also wrote Animal Bill of Rights on my chest because I wanted a photo that would just be very eye-catching and shocking or whatever. So we're asking folks to consider, would you be down to do this dot and blood drip and throat slit and maybe right on your chest? That's a lot to do. I think it would be very powerful and definitely encourage people to be creative in doing it. But if not, there's also a much sort of simpler way to take action. And I'll scroll down to an example of that. This is a challenge that our friend Nat from Rose's Law Working Group put together and ran, and it was really popular, especially in Central and South America. And it's about like what animals deserve. And it takes the 5 principles of Rose's Law and puts them on each finger in a short version. So that is freedom, safety, representation, a home, and rescue. And so you just, on the palm of your hand, write all animals deserve in English or Spanish, and then each finger, do your best to make it legible. And then you can take kind of cool artistic photos. The Spanish version's here too. And you see, like, this was just something that people did on Instagram using the hashtag all animals deserve. So just some more examples of that. So our friend Azul. Here's one in English, another in Spanish. Some people do both versions and put them on their hands, English and Spanish, or whatever language you prefer. Some friends would do this together, and I'd encourage you to do that too. And here's our good friend Rocky with it in English on his hands. So now at the bottom of the document, and I'll leave this up on the screen, are a couple sample posts. So if you're doing the one with the bolt, you could say animals are bolted in their brain and have their throats cut by the billions while animal ag destroys the planet, exploits workers, and threatens public health. It's time for Rose's Law. And there's some hashtags that are applicable there. And then the sample post for the hand would say, like, we all deserve Rose's Law, Animal Bill of Rights. And you can be sure to include all animals deserve hashtag in that. And then also we have some Instagram accounts to mention, Rose's Law and DXC, CDMX, Rose's Law Korea, and then the same for Twitter as well. So now I'd just like to ask everybody to take 10 minutes and go, and just go and do this to your hand or to your face, and then start posting to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you can, and tagging Direct Action Everywhere, Rose's Law, things like that. And our people on those pages will try to favorite and retweet or repost your stuff and their stories that are on their feed. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, if not, then just I'll be here if anyone does. But in the meantime, please help support this campaign, help people be aware of Rose's Law, Animal Bill of Rights, and go ahead and do that. And feel free to go to dxc.io/Rose Challenge to have access to this document where you can use some of the text to copy and paste. Yeah, I'm going to type the address in right now. Please. If anyone has any questions or comments in the chat, I'm happy to take that while people are doing this, and we'll just give people a little bit of time to get the materials and get started, and really appreciate your support on this. It means a lot to see these images go through. And Joanna, I don't know if you want to move along while people are working, or if you want to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, we can just wait and give people some time.
Okay.
Maybe you want to pull up an example photo again, or
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Cassie's a good example. I mean, here's the ones with the hands look super cool. Like, I think people, maybe had a friend help them with the photo, but you can still do it in selfie mode too. It doesn't have to be as artistic as the one you see on the screen, but it looks really great, in my opinion. And as you can see, like to make the dot on your head, you just draw a black circle and surround it with some red marker. I use like these kind of washable markers that came off really easy, but if you use a Sharpie, it'll come off with a little scrubbing too. And someone's asking, do we do the hand version or the face version? Like, do both if you like, for sure. You can choose whichever one you prefer to do, but if you'd like to do both, that's better yet. Helen's said, I'm driving, I'll do one later. Thanks a lot, Helen. And as with Cassie, you can see the throat. And so, yeah, like I said, these are kind of jarring images, and that's a bit by design, because we do want to catch people's attention and elevate, exactly what animals do go through. Because when we think about what's happening to cows and pigs and goats and everybody around the world, it's just kind of normalized. But when you see a human depicted with a similar assault to their body, it probably triggers a response that really signals like, hey, this is not okay. This is very violent. And that's like one of the founding ideas that Direct Action Everywhere elevates, is that it's not food, it's violence. We try to denormalize violence towards animals.
So someone in the chat is asking if we could say the 5 asks from the Animal Bill of Rights. Maybe you could even pull up, there's one photo that has it on. Oh yeah, they're there, perfect.
Yeah, and I'll even add, let me just, yeah.
And I see Becky saying, you know, something that I think many of us probably can relate to is kind of feeling alone and not really knowing a lot of other people who believe in animal liberation or understand that animals, you know, have feelings and that they shouldn't be exploited. And so that's part of the reason that we do this, is to kind of feel more of a sense of togetherness. And when you do make your post, we would love for you to post the link to your post in the chat. And that way people on this call can go and like it and share it and maybe friend you if you're not already friends. And then also for anyone who isn't able to participate right now, maybe you don't have the materials or something, you can just, you know, click on some of those links and go and like and comment on people's posts and just help them to kind of boost and get a little bit more visibility.
Yes, and Gail asked, can I see a photo of the hand? There's the hand in English. Also, dxe.io/Rose Challenge in your web browser. That'll take you to this exact document. And if that helps you, you know, jump around and find what you need to find. Oh, nice. Thanks, Joanna. Yours is clickable. Mine wasn't. Thank you. So I'll be in Twitter and Instagram looking at the hashtag Rose's Law, because hopefully these will all at least have Rose's Law hashtag. And if you're doing the hand, hopefully it has also All Animals Deserve. And I'll start through like the DXD accounts, just kind of retweeting and stuff, everybody who's posting these awesome photos.
I either have a really short middle finger or representation is a really long word. I don't know if anyone else is having this problem.
I think representation tests your penmanship, penpersonship.
Cool. So maybe we'll just give people another like 2 minutes to take your photo, post your photo. That document that's been linked a few times also has some hashtags in there that you can use, and that way we can all, you know, click on the hashtags and find each other. And when you do make your post, feel free to share it in the chat here, and we can go and like each other's posts and comment.
And then also too, just by all means, we have also in the document, there are like different Rose's Law organizing groups in Germany and South Korea, Mexico City, the US. Some of those accounts are linked, and you can be on the lookout for their, you know, geographic specific actions that take place between September 27th and October 4th with our week-long global lockdown. You can check those out. For instance, folks in California, a lot of us are going to go to Los Angeles for a 48-hour vigil plus action, ranging from the 27th through the 29th at Farmer John's Slaughterhouse. So that should be a pretty amazing experience to be there and bearing witness. And we'll be taking all the precautions we can to have good social distancing and minimize any risk of transmitting COVID-19, and asking people to not like carpool with people you don't already live with or anything like that. And yeah, again, shout out to Nat in Peru for designing the All Animals Deserve Challenge and having such success with it before.
All right, so I see some people have already put their links to their posts in the chat. George, let us know what your post link is so we can go and like it. And yeah, if you want to just share the link to your post in there, feel free to do that. Or if you haven't made the post yet, but you want to make some new animal rights friends, feel free to just post your Facebook profile in the chat as well, and we can all connect after the call. And yeah, you can share your Twitter posts too. If anybody made a post on Twitter, feel free to throw those in the chat as well. So we'll move on, but if you haven't finished the challenge yet, you're welcome to just keep working on it. And you can also access this document after the call. So if you want to, to do the challenge once the call is over, it'll be online at dxe.io/rosechallenge. I will get you to stop sharing your screen here, Paul. Perfect. And yeah, thank you so much for leading us through that. And I look forward to seeing everyone's photos online. I was just trying to take a few and make it look good. So I'll post mine when we're done. And yeah, I always love seeing these challenges on Facebook after. It's pretty cool to log on to Facebook, Saturday night or afternoon, wherever you are, and just scroll through your news feed and see all these people, like just see the challenge, a bunch of different photos. So I look forward to seeing that on Facebook later today. So we've come to the end of our assembly for today, and I just wanted to thank all of you so much for being a part of it and for being here. Yeah, I was a little nervous today just because we're doing a couple new things, and there's always a little bit of nerves, but I think it went well, and I appreciate everyone being really understanding about some of the little tech glitches that we had. And yeah, thank you so much to all of our guests and for all of you for joining and just being here with this kind of global community that we have. So just a moment to specifically thank Mike and Jason, Priya, Paul, and Noemi, our ASL interpreter, and everyone else who's helping behind the scenes to make these calls possible. I really appreciate everything that you all do. And geographically, we are all apart, and it feels like the world is kind of collapsing around us right now, but just know that in spirit, we are connected, and we do have this community all around the world. And we always end these calls with a final activity to just show and feel our connectedness. So this is something that we've borrowed from the United Farm Workers movement of the 60s. They started it, and it's called the Unity Clap. And they did this as a way to bridge a language gap between members of their group who didn't speak the same language and often were separated really far in the fields. And, kind of, they wanted to feel togetherness, but weren't always able to just rally around each other and hug and share words together. So at the end of each day, the workers would start this thing called the Unity Clap, which symbolized their solidarity together as allies, and to kind of emphasize that we rise and fall together as allies. And so despite all the barriers between us today, just remember that we are united and that you stand among amazing, powerful, courageous people. And I invite you to use gallery view right now. So if you are on a computer, you can go to the top right corner of your Zoom screen, and there should be something that says gallery view. If you're on a phone, you can just swipe through the different screens, and that'll let you just see everyone or see as many people as possible. And so the clap starts off slow, and then it gets faster and faster, like a heartbeat. And once we're up to a good speed, we'll go for a few seconds, and then it ends with one final clap. And so this is about solidarity, and it's also about fun. It can feel a little bit silly to just be clapping in front of your computer if you're maybe by yourself in a room or something, but just enjoy it. And this is kind of a moment to express some of those emotions that we've maybe built up during this call. So we're going to allow everyone to unmute themselves now as well. So you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to do that. And once we're done with this clap, the call is going to be over. So thank you all so much for joining, and I can't wait to see you next month. All right, here we go. Thank you so much, everyone.